A good friend of mine, I'll call her Caroline, is falling in love with a man in her life. And she said to me this week, I'm scared. And he's scared. They wanted to work, but like so many people, they bring scars. Can they risk the pain? She's Jewish, and so she said, well, my approach is going to be Nasa v'nishma, which a modern interpretation of this expression is do and then understand. And it comes from the book of Exodus. Before Moses even gives the Israelites the commandments from God, before they even know what the commandments are, they all say, all that God has spoken to us, we will do, and we will hear. They say yes, do first, hear and understand later, along the way. Now, it may seem strange to you that I'm comparing the Israelites saying yes to God's commandments even before they know them, with my friend Caroline saying yes to love even though it's scary. And yet so many good and brave yeses can be pathways to God. And this message of living into God's commandments, we hear about it today in the book of Deuteronomy when Moses and the Israelites, 40 years later, are completing their wandering in the wilderness. The people are scared to cross over into the promised land, and unable to go with them, Moses urges the Israelites to hold fast to those commandments that he's passed down to them from God. He says, take care and watch yourselves closely so as neither to forget the things your eyes have seen nor let them slip from your mind all the days of your life. Make them, the commandments, known to your children and to your children's children. Moses must have a heavy heart, knowing he can't travel with his people into the promised land, but he wants them to fulfill their destiny as children of God. Okay, so that's the first example of do and then understand. Nasa v'nishma. Take God's commandments with you, God's words with you wherever you go. Make them a part of you. Whether or not you fully understand what they mean, hold on tight. Also this week we hear from the letter of James, written 20 years after Jesus died, and probably not by James, but by other writers. And the message in this letter isn't just hold on tight to the commandments, but it's give yourselves up to God. Become first fruits. The letter says, God gave us birth by the word of truth so that we become a kind of first fruits of his creatures. First fruits, it's a farming term in ancient times. The first agricultural harvest of the season was given to God. So we are called to give ourselves, our lives, back to God, doing not what we want with our lives, but what we feel God is calling us to do, to be ourselves God's first fruits, gifts from God, for God to use in the world. So, giving ourselves up to God, this is the second, do, and then understand. And it's a tall order. And that brings us to the Gospel of Mark. Today, when the Pharisees, religious leaders of the time, catch Jesus' followers eating with unclean hands, which doesn't seem like the biggest crime in the world, except hand-washing symbolized ritual purity, a way of respecting God, and Jesus' followers were not following the custom. So the Pharisees call out to Jesus, "Why do your disciples not live according to the traditions of the elders, but eat with defiled hands?" They believe that Jesus' followers are just inviting dangerous, impure matter into their bodies, and Jesus responds, "Listen to me, all of you. and understand. Listen and then understand. There's nothing outside a person that by going in can defile, but the things that come out are what defile. Things from the human heart can defile. It's what's going on inside us that counts. We know this. We know, and we also know all of the destructive things that are going on inside of us. It can be a real battle in here. And James's letter, in the easier said than done department, tells us, rid yourselves of all sordidness and rank growth of wickedness, and instead remain unstained by the world, even though the world definitely tries to stain us. Another tall order. So, in the midst of this inner distraction and turmoil, which we all feel, how can we live and hold tight to God's commandments? How can we purify, unstain our hearts? Even if, Nisav and Ishma, we don't yet fully understand God's ways. How do we do? And then understand with all this inner turmoil going on. I think James has a great answer. Basically, he just says, go and care for widows and orphans in their distress. It's that simple. In other words, just keep focusing on the needs of others. Energy poured out on others helps unstain our hearts. Widows, orphans, the hungry, the unhoused, the mentally ill, our friends and family, in any way, in every way that they need us, and they need us. Our political adversaries. Reaching out strengthens our God-given capacity to be who God made us to be. It's not about racking up points in heaven. It's about living open-heartedly now. It's the best trick ever in the spiritual life. Do, and maybe later, understand. Or, to put it crassly, fake it till you make it. You know, my mother sort of said that when I was growing up. Whenever I would come to her with a list of complaints about all of the injustices in my own life, she would just say, think out. Think out. Don't think about our own lives, but think about those widows and orphans in distress. And so, I want to share one more thing this week that, along with Nisa Venishma, has really touched me. And these are words from a monk that lives at the monastery on the Charles River in Harvard Square, this wonderful Episcopal monastery. And he says, beautifully, we are made in the image of God with the same capacity of eternal, abiding, transforming love. We are, my words, wait for it, we are temporal containers of eternal love. Temporal, temporary, not going to last. Containers of eternal love that lasts forever. We have the chance, the opportunity, the privilege now to carry around eternal love, an eternal commodity entrusted to our temporary care. So, how do we carry eternal love? Back to Nisav and Ishma. First, we act. An example. Since the beginning of our wonderful St. James School over 50 years ago, the children have been volunteering as part of their classwork in our soup kitchen. But lately, this work has doubled because 26 families, their children, their parents, are coming in on Saturday mornings and helping with soup kitchen then as well. Not all 26 at once, but there's just this roster of families and children coming in. These children, especially sixth graders, it seems, could be doing so many other things on a Saturday morning, and yet they come here. They love it. They sense the truth that they are made for this, for giving. Taking care of those who need help. That's not the only way to carry God's eternal love, but it is such a powerful one. By carrying God's love around and pouring it out to all of those in need, we are serving as temporal containers of eternal love. And we can do it even when our hearts are still in turmoil. They're still crowded with insecurity and doubt and fear and frustration. We can still carry eternal love because step by step, we come to know not everything, but more and more. So, act, and then maybe understand. Amen.